Virtual summits are the most powerful online marketing tool available to grow your list, launch your platform, make more money, and create an impact in the world, even if you're just getting started. If you are ready to take your summit to the next level, then tune into the Virtual Summit podcast with Dr. Mark T. Wade.
Hi, I'm Dr. Mark T. Wade, founder of Virtual Summit Software and creator of the One Day Summit Formula. And I'm on a mission to help you, the summit host, get your summit out to the world in a powerful and impactful way. So let's get started. Hey, summit host, Dr. Mark T. Wade here, founder of Virtual Summit Software and your host of the Virtual Summit podcast. I am super excited to have Jon Schumacher with me on this episode because we are going to be getting into some pretty straightforward but powerful tactics that you're going to need to know on your summit. Jon, thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to join us today on the podcast.
Thank you so much, Mark. I'm excited. Let's do this.
It's going to be amazing. Me and Jon were just having a little bit of a catch up before we hit record, and I know he's going to be giving you some straightforward but powerful information on his very successful summit that he ran, which was the Webinar Mastery Summit, and we're going to get into that and more. But before we do, Jon, I'd love for you to tell the audience just a little bit more about yourself and where they can find you on social.
So my name is Jon Schumacher. Again, thanks for having me, Mark. So you can check me out at jonschumacher.com or just put my name into Google. You'll find all kinds of materials that come up on webinars and online marketing and that kind of thing. As far as like what I do, I run a boutique agency and a consultancy service, mostly focused around funnels, webinars, paid traffic, and those type of things, mainly for coaches, consultants, and service providers. Subject matter experts who want to monetize their expertise online. So again, you can check me out at jonschumacher.com or just put my name into Google or any other social media sites, and things usually come up about me. Hopefully, most of the time, good. So so that's a little bit about me and where you can find out about me.
Absolutely. And we're going to have all links to Jon and all of the gems and information he's going to be citing in this episode over at the show notes, podcast.virtualsummits.com. So we'll link to that. We'll link to any goodies that we get into here today as well. And let's start off talking about your Webinar Mastery Summit. Like, how did you come up with the idea to do that? What were you thinking around the time, and how did it go?
So the first one was in 2016, and this was my first summit. So I wasn't sure how it was going to go or anything like that. But at that point, 2014, I was doing a lot of JV webinars, 2015, a lot of JV webinars, selling a program, and wanted to really get known for that. I really developed a process, and we were having some good success selling. At that time, it was courses mostly on webinars with JV partners and stuff like that. And at the time before that, I was the webinar person. I was actually a Google Hangouts expert. I wrote a book on that. I had an online course on that. And I tell you, that thing sold like hotcakes because it was such a new concept at the time, right? Wow, you can actually live stream from your computer, this was a revolutionary 5 years ago. And so we started selling those, and I kind of see the writing on the wall that, Hangouts wasn't going to be around forever. So pivoted more into marketing, which is similar. We were using live video for selling and marketing. Now we pivoted over to webinars, which I started doing more and more of. Actually did one live webinar a week for an entire year, and then started doing a lot of JV webinars and just got into webinars. So the summit, the intention of the summit, as you know, for everybody listening here, is it's a great tool for a few things, right? It's a great tool if you're wanting to make it kind of an explosion into a market and you're an expert and you want to kind of, here I am kind of thing. Like the summit, I wanted to get known as the webinar guy, so I made it Webinar Mastery Summit, where we put that out there in a bigger way. So it's a great way to get visibility in a niche that you're in. It's a great way to build a list in that niche, and it's a great way to meet influencers and other potential partners who participate in the summit. So that was really the intention of the summit, was to go up level things, build the bigger list, get more visibility in a niche that I wanted to continue to grow into or break into even more.
Virtual Summit's software makes hosting a summit easier than ever. The only software in the world designed specifically for hosting a summit lets you set up a summit in a matter of hours with no tech skill or team needed. You can try out the Virtual Summit's software free at virtualsummits.com. But hurry, this is a limited offer.
And how did you actually even, because when you were doing this, I mean, summits were around, but it was still kind of a newer concept, if you will. How did you even think about it, or how did you find out about it, or even hear about it?
Yeah, so one of my friends who I had spoken to before is Naveed Mawaz's. He's been a past client of mine, as well as a mentor as far as summits and things like that go. So he was the one whose process I followed. So I joined his program, Virtual Summit Mastery, and went in and he had all of the framework to follow. So I had a partner at the time. We just followed the framework. And we started with our network, reaching out with people we knew, and then we would reach out through them to a few new people. And I think we ended up with about 25 speakers for the first one. So that's how we got started.
That's amazing. And it went very well for you, and you ended up doing another one. I think it was a year later or a little bit longer. Great. Yeah. So based on our pre-interview chat, we were talking, that there's some pretty straightforward things that if you were going to look at doing a summit again, how you would boil it down to. I'd like to get into that. Like, what are some of the things, like right now, let's talk about what are the things that are kind of the fringe that you see people doing that probably aren't going to bring them a whole lot of value on their summit?
Yeah, so like anything, and this is sort of an obsession of mine, I'm a simple-minded person. I like to focus on, what's the 80-20 or the 95-5 rule of getting things done, right? Because we can all disperse our energy amongst a lot of different things. And when you're new at something, you just don't know what you don't know. And so you try a lot of things, or sometimes you'll listen, sometimes you won't, to the people that have gone before you. We had, between the two summits, we had about 8,000 opt-ins. So there's certainly bigger summits out there, but, we had a pretty decent success in kind of a niche space with not a ton of speakers either. If I was, one of the recommendations I would give from my experience is that there's a lot of things you could do to promote the summit, because that's always people's fear is, how do I promote it? Besides, how do I get speakers, which is another discussion. How do I promote the summit to get people to actually come and sign up? I've tried different things, like, I tried paying Instagram influencers to share my summit on business pages. We tried PR campaigns. We tried a lot of different stuff with promoting the summit. And basically what I've concluded, at least from my experience, is that really there's only two things that I would focus on. One is having really good speakers and partners who I have relationships with, who are willing to share and promote the summit. And part of that comes from relationship building beforehand. And then the other one is paid media. Like, if you could get, at least, if your summit could at least be somewhat of a break even or a loss leader with the recordings, you can usually make up that on the back end a little bit with offers and prices, both courses or high end offers. So, I would just focus on those two, get people on board who are willing to share. And usually those aren't necessarily the top A players, unless you're already an A player. Sometimes it's like maybe the B, for lack of a better word, or people that have an audience. Maybe they're not a huge celebrity. Their promotional calendar isn't booked out for 3 years straight. These are the people that are more likely to kind of share it with your audience and stuff like that. So I would just focus on those two things for me. I did run a contest once that did add a little bit of revenue, or a little bit of opt-in for sure. But again, if I was going to run another one, I would probably just keep it very, very lean and fast and simple, and go with the double down and triple down on the most effective things that I've seen work before.
And I'll definitely resonate or ring that same bell as far as getting not just looking for the big influencers or the ones that everyone's reaching out to. I've seen this over and over again. I've heard other summit hosts talk about it on this same podcast, is that a lot of times those influencers, although it might be nice to have a couple of them on there for sake or even credibility, most of them aren't going to push hard or promote hard your summit unless you have a really good relationship with them. However, those kind of one tier down people who are still hustling hard, they're still trying to make a name for themselves, they're going to get in there and they're going to push it, promote it, and they can bring in a lot more opportunities for you. So I agree with you there. I would love to actually go into this contest, even though you said, if you were going to go back, you would chop the fat off and just stay right here in this kind of zone. I'd love to hear about this contest because it sounds very interesting. So can you tell us a little bit about it? Like what was the point or purpose and then kind of how it did?
Yeah, so it didn't do too bad. So on the second summit I ran, we had about 5,000 opt-ins or so from the summit. I would say 1,000 or so, maybe a little more, came from this contest that I was running. And so we used a tool called Gleam.io was the tool we used. There's other tools out there, Contest Domination. There's different tools out there you can use for that. That's the tool we ended up using. And so what we did was when people opted in, they obviously, I don't know how deep you want to go down the rabbit hole here, but when they opted in, they're obviously presented with a one-time offer for the Summit Pass and all that kind of stuff. And then it was either in the first, and then I have what I call a 24-hour sequence of emails. Like if you have a few emails within the first 24 hours of an opt-in, those are dramatically higher response rates and open rates. So I think it was either the first or second email, we had a link to a page that was put on by Gleam.io, where there was a giveaway. If you shared the summit or you shared a certain page to others on your networks and stuff, you got a certain amount of entries into a contest and the prizes were like a year of easy webinar or, some other, tools, software. I can't remember if I gave away one of my programs or something like that. But, there was a package that was of significant value that was the carrot for people to start sharing on their social networks or via email or all of that kind of stuff. And so we also retargeted people to that as well, in addition to the email. So that added about 20%. So that's not a bad chunk. I would say if from all the things I've tried, I would say that would be a close third, I guess, if you're going to look at speakers sharing, paid traffic, and getting the contest, I'd say would be one of the more effective ways to do what was called sideways list building, right? So once people already opt in, how can you build in other opt-ins from those opt-ins, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's excellent. And I love the idea of a contest. I think that would still be extremely relevant right now.
Yeah.
Especially for summit hosts that are willing, and they're hustling. We're looking for some bigger and better results. I think that would definitely, the juice would be worth the squeeze on that one. So definitely. Look at Gleam.io. And I love the 24-hour email sequence because you're right. I mean, that's across the board. Emails are generally, the open rates are much, much better is like right after the person opts in. So let's definitely make sure we're adding that. Now let's get into some disaster moments. Did anything break? Did anything go oh crap, what just happened here? Like any of those type of moments?
Yeah, it's been a little while now. So yeah, I mean, I think we had Vimeo went down for half a day or something like that. You're like, what the heck's going on? Most people are cool about it. I would say one thing we did do was, I wouldn't call it a disaster, but something to think about. Like if you are having live sessions or JV live sessions, like for our first summit, we had 2 or 3, I think 3 actually, webinar platforms that presented live presentations during the summit. So they were actually sharing their software, right? Because a lot of beginners are looking for, what software do I use? So I had I had my friend Casey Zeman of Easy Webinar on there. We had Webinar Ninja on there. We had Webinar Jam on there. We had a lot of the main players. And a couple of things, well, one of the softwares struggled to work a little bit, so we had some complaints there. It happens, right, when you put yourself out there. But there was a couple of speakers who actually had their own platforms as well that were a little put off that they didn't get to present. And so because of that, they weren't willing to share as much. And there was a few little issues there. So I wouldn't call it a disaster. But if you're thinking about showcasing people on your summits and other speakers are also in that niche, something to think about a little bit there as far as putting on live presentations or pitching other people's stuff, because they may not want to share their audience with a competitor's software or something like that, but it wasn't that big of a deal.
Right. Well, I mean, that's a great point right there to take into consideration. I mean, a lot of the summit hosts are dependent on the speakers to promote the summit, and if you're putting information or things out there that are going to conflict with a speaker or multiple speakers, it's really going to hurt the sharing of the summit. And it's also another good point to be fully transparent with your speakers. Like, what is the goals? What are you planning on doing? Giving them a little bit of kind of the agenda or the plan, so they're aware of it, and getting that feedback and being open to it beforehand. So that's an excellent point there.
Yeah.
I'd love to go even deeper in the live webinar, the live aspect that you did. So can you kind of talk us through, I know you were presenting or showing the webinar software, but how did you set that up for the attendees? Because you obviously didn't go to the attendees and say, hey, we just want to show you this webinar platform. How did you present it so it added value, and how did you structure it? Was it each one a day during the live, during the summit, or how did you do that?
Yeah, so they were on separate days. So we did have I think, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday or something like that, where we had a day dedicated to that person. And I think what we did was kind of what Steve Dotto does for his Webinar Palooza, where he had people sign up for each one or something like that. So if you wanted to be a part of that session, you would actually experience the software inside as an attendee in all of those things. And then the presenter was coming on and sharing the features and screen sharing and stuff like that with the features. So that was it. We had people experiencing it as attendee. And then, of course, there was an affiliate thing, and they could offer their software for people that were interested on the spot. So that's pretty much how the demos for the software went. On our first one, we did actually, we're using Blab for the live sessions. I don't know if you remember Blab. That was actually a really fun platform on social media that we were using. And so there's a lot of the ways you can do live sessions. I personally like it. I like getting live during those kind of things, just because, this is a new audience and they're looking to experience you for the first time, and live video is a great way to build rapport with those people. So I would recommend that for summit hosts too, just to kind of be seen, right? And not be this mysterious figure.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with that. I have kind of 2 or 3 points that go along with that. So one of the things we do when we're running our summits is we'll actually take some of the speakers that are presenting in the summit. Of course, those are all pre-recorded sessions, but what we'll do leading up to the opening of the summit is we'll actually bring them on for like Facebook Lives, and we'll do like a Facebook Live chat back and forth about what they're going to present on, who they are, to kind of get the audience familiar with them, and of course us as the host. And then throughout the summit, usually a kickoff session and then an end session we do live. Typically, I always recommend that the summit sessions are pre-recorded, just because it's kind of a disaster if something goes down, you're planning on it, the internet goes out or something like that. So, but adding live components really increases the engagement, as you were saying, John. It also helps build that relationship, which is a big part of virtual summits. So looking back now at your virtual summits, how, other than just the lead generation and maybe some of the income or profits you generated, how did it benefit your business?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the list, the income, and the indirect income is what people forget about, because you now have a list that you can build a rapport with and, monetize for a while now, and things like that. So that's a big one. I think for me, part of it is just the relationships you build with the speakers. That's a big one. That's why I really like the summit model. If you are looking to kind of break out into a market and build a list and things like that, because you get to build the list, you get to make some income, you get to meet a lot of influencers too. And as you know, interview content like this is a great way to meet people. It's a great way to build relationships and open relationships. And I met a number of people through the summits, or podcasts or webinars I've done in the past that have become friends, and either been a mentor, or a peer, or a client, or something like that down the road. So there's that piece too that I think is. It's really a great way to break into an industry or into a field, or even just if you're already there, just to kind of elevate or amplify that a little bit.
Be sure to check out the speaker management tool inside your virtual summit software. which lets you quickly and easily recruit and manage your speakers on your virtual summit, literally eliminating hundreds of hours of work. Get more information at virtualsummits.com.
Agree completely. And for me, relationships are so important. It's actually one of my core values. Your net worth depends on your network. And so summits it's probably why I'm naturally drawn to summits anyways, is because you get this opportunity to reach out to other influencers or even just people in your industry and build a relationship with them by offering them value. Because I mean, in reality, it is a benefit for most speakers to be able to speak on a well-run summit. And I actually a lot of times will reach out directly to my competition and even bring them on, because I see it. I always look at it's collaboration over competition is my mindset or my motto. So summits are a great opportunity, to reach out there and even target your competition and build a relationship in that sense. So actually what I'd like to look at now is, looking back on your summit experience and you've talked about how you would boil some of this down and cut out some of the fringe areas, but what's one main thing you wish you knew before going into your summit?
One thing I wish I knew before going into the summit. Well, part of it, the promotion piece, of course, like where to focus on with that. I think it's not at least for me in my experience, it's not necessarily the number of speakers like you have, but the right ones, in the sense that, like, for me, I was fortunate I had some friends and stuff that just would share it because they liked me, and things like that. So my first one, I had 25 speakers. I think the second one I only had like 17 or something like that. But the second one did twice as many opt-ins and twice as much money because everybody was more engaged and involved and stuff like that. So I think, again, I always look for how do I trim things down to the essentials. That was part of it too, is just like, oh, okay, like, a lot of the bigger people I had on the last one, I understand it, but they didn't want, they weren't willing to share it or anything like that. And I get that, they usually have full promotional calendars and stuff like that. But, yeah, I think it's just where to focus on promotion, how to find the right speakers and approach them correctly. And I think those would be the main things.
Let's look at some of the technical aspects, like going back to those summits when you created them. What was the technical aspect or the creation process like?
Like, what's the tool stack you mean I used, or?
Yeah, like what was the experience like of creating your summit?
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. I hired a designer. We did ours on WordPress. We had a custom theme built and stuff like that. So we spent a little more money. I mean, I don't know what you have your client. I think you have a software that maybe takes care of that now and stuff like that too. Other people are using other softwares, but we had a custom thing built. So I hired a designer to create that. So that part was taken off of my shoulders. We had an intro made, outro, and just very small amounts of editing. I can't remember if I did it myself. I might have even just clipped it on the edges and kind of left it. I don't think we did a ton of in interview editing and stuff like that. So it wasn't too bad. I mean, a lot of copywriting, right? Like emails and stuff. The first time through, we did have some templates we could follow. But we did have to go through and we did write our own emails in that regard. My second summit, I did hire somebody to take my previous summit's emails because it was the same topic and modify those and stuff. So I did hire someone to help me with the emails the second time. And then I used the same website and the same theme and everything the second time. We just use ActiveCampaign for the email marketing. That was pretty much it.
Yeah, excellent. I want to go deeper into the copywriting. This is a topic that we actually haven't done a lot of talking yet about on this podcast, and it's obviously important. So why don't you talk about that aspect? How did you? I mean, you're obviously a good copywriter already, but how was that like? And for our newer summit hosts, what should they anticipate? Because it's not a quick or an easy task. Like, what should they? What's a strategy or a tactic or even a recommendation that you could give them on how to improve that aspect of their summit?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly like the 24-hour automation on the front end to increase opens and clicks. So anything that you want them to do on the front end, which is usually to buy the recordings or do a contest or share something or whatever, you're going to want to stack that in the first bit of time because it's just statistically proven to be better opens and clicks and then declines from there. As far as copy skills, God, it's been a while. I'd have to look back. I mean, we had a pretty basic framework for delivering the content, if that's what you're looking for. I mean, it was, we tried to limit it to, I think the first one we did was 7 days, maybe, or 10 days. I think the first one was, and then the next one was only 7. And we had less speakers. So we try to limit it to, 2 or 3 sessions a day. So each speaker got more clicks and stuff like that too, versus like this wall of speakers, where maybe it's so divided and diffuse amongst all the speakers, they didn't really get a lot of traffic. So we did get some pretty good comments on that. And it actually did get opt-ins for the speakers and stuff like that. Whereas some you hardly get any, right? So, yeah, I don't know if you have anything specific you want to ask about copy.
Yeah, let's just as far as, do you any insights on like maybe a progression of copy? What do you start off? We've got the 24-hour campaign, which is to get them to take the offer. Is the rest of the email copy just to get them? Is there any kind of specific strategy with that, or is it just to get them back to the summit? And then afterwards, what's the goal of the email copy?
Yeah, I mean, so it depends on your strategy with the raising of the all access pass and stuff like that. Like, so obviously there'll need to be some copy with some incentives there. So if you're starting at 67 and you raise it to 97 and whatever else behind that, that needs to be written out, obviously, and there needs to be a sales page on that with incentives and reasons to buy the package on the front end. And then, kind of the middle of the summit, at least for me, was just centered around delivery. Again, we usually had 2-3 sessions a day. If we had a live session, that's included in there as well, or some kind of demo during the summit, that's included in the middle. And then at the end, we did promote some kind of like wrap up. And then beyond that, what we were doing was webinars. So we would get people write copy to get them from the summit to a webinar. And so I think after the last one we did, we had about 700 people or something that attended the webinar. So a good sized webinar, and then we would pitch the my course, the Webinar Mastery Academy at the time was what we were pitching. And then behind that, there was an opportunity to work on a higher ticket offer, like booking phone calls and stuff like that. So I think it's just, I don't know if we can get enough time to get into like the specifics of how to lay out an email or a sales page or the format there. But as far as the summit, think longer term, like, you have the summit, you're building this list. The first offer is your all access pass in most cases. How are you going to sell that? What's the strategy behind that? And then create the words that match that. And then what's the next step behind the summit? And then what's the next step behind that? And kind of have the sequence mapped out so that you fully understand how you want to make your offers around the summit, and that'll kind of direct your copywriting. So
yeah, that's some great insight right there, and exactly how it should be done as far as what we're targeting throughout it. And of course, there's all kinds of different strategies. I mean, this goes the same with how you're going to promote it. Like, there's a lot of different more complicated or complex ways you can do it. And I've seen both. I've seen some pretty complex email campaigns for summits. I've seen them do great, and I've seen them bomb at the same time. And I've seen like super simple, just direct email campaigns do just as good as well. So it probably, there's probably a little bit of like, it doesn't really matter in there somewhere, but I don't know how much that is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, certainly, I mean, if you're persuading people to sign up for something, you want it to be enticing. And, but yeah, I don't know if we want to go into depth on like how to write copy or something like that right now, but there's lots of good resources out there, on writing better copy, better emails and stuff like that. So, I would just take some of that stuff and take it into, and plus, I don't know if you have a summit program or course, but your software may even have those emails that they can kind of plug and play and kind of, get it all kind of templated out for them. But
Yeah.
use what other people have had success with and try to customize it for your own voice.
With the Ever Summit feature inside the Virtual Summit software, you can rerun your summit as if it were live, ongoing forever with one click of a button. This now lets you continue to use your summit forever, bringing in qualified and engaged leads every month into your business. Get more information at virtualsummit.com.
Absolutely. No point in recreating the wheel there. Well, Jon, as we get ready to wrap this episode up, I got like one or two more questions for you. I feel like you've got a pretty large knowledge base on different tools, softwares, different things you can use across the board, even whether it's specific for summits or other things. So I'd like to just kind of pick your brain just for a quick second on like what tools right now are hot for you? What are you loving? Like what's going on? Like what are something that's beneficial or powerful, whether it's related directly to summits or to webinars or just marketing in general?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm a pretty simple guy. So, we're using ClickFunnels for a lot of our builds, ActiveCampaign for email automation. Those are the main tools. I'm still using Samcart in some cases to sell. Like when I sold my summits as a shopping cart, which I actually got in at the when it launched, so I got like a cheaper price. It's gotten a little high now, so ThriveCart's another option that's out there for that. As far as tracking affiliates, that was one thing we struggled with a little bit. How to track the affiliates if you're not using Infusionsoft. Sometimes it can be a little tricky because the cart isn't matching everything, So we did use Samcart for that, which did okay. It tracks clicks and sales, but not leads necessarily. So that was kind of like, we did have little contests that we did with the affiliates where we'd have a leaderboard and stuff like that, but we had to do it kind of a little differently mostly with sales, right? So we had like a sales contest and stuff like that to help incentivize people to share and stuff like that. But it was mainly Samcart, ActiveCampaign. We used WordPress. I'm using ClickFunnels a lot for funnel builds and stuff. Vimeo for video hosting. You can use Google Tag Manager for retargeting, for percentage of view of videos and stuff like that. You can set those things up if you want to get more complex. Facebook, all the pixels there. Google Ads, Facebook, YouTube, all of those remarketing campaigns. And what else? I mean, there's a lot of tools that have probably come over time, but
right. Well, no, those are all amazing tools. A lot of almost all of those that you mentioned we use as well. So those are some great tools to give our listeners something to go look into and dive into. Again, we'll have links over in the show notes for those over at podcast.virtualsummits.com. Again, as we're wrapping this up, Jon, a lot of our listeners, they're summit hosts that are putting on summits. Many of them are probably in this same kind of industry or niche that you've participated in. So if somebody was wanting to reach out to you to have you be a speaker on their summit, like what's one or two great topics that you could speak on, and how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, well, certainly, I mean, what I'm noted for is kind of the webinar related topics. So if it's a marketing related summit, that's more than fine. Or how to grow an expertise based business. I've worked with a lot of people around that space who want to sell programs or courses or consulting, coaching, all that, sales, all that kind of stuff is what I really enjoy doing as well. So I mean, if you wanted to hear more about me or from me, again, you can go to jonschumacher.com or just email me directly, Jon@jonschumacher.com, which is Jon with no H, Jon Schumacher. You can email me there, or just, go to jonschumacher.com and there's a contact form there, or scheduler forms and stuff like that for people that want to talk and or find me on social media, pretty much on all of them. Yep.
Excellent. And again, Jon, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule, drop some of these amazing gems with my audience here. This has been super powerful, super beneficial. So I just want to say thank you again for that. And then I'm going to leave it with you if you have any kind of final words of wisdom that you'd like to share with the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for having me, Mark. You're a great host, and I love your energy here. This is good. So, I think I'll speak to somebody who's maybe yet to do a summit. I had some apprehensions about it mainly around, am I going to find the right speakers? Am I going to get people to actually attend? And those type of things. And it was, I felt like it was, some work, obviously, which it is, to kind of get this, especially your first one up and all that kind of stuff. And I was kind of like, well, should I do this or should I not do this? And ultimately one of my favorite phrases is this: it's what got me here won't get me there. And if you're looking to grow either in a new area or a new industry, or looking to expand in your current industry, I do like the online summit strategy for building the list, for meeting influencers, for bringing in short-term revenue. I mean, those three things are very valuable assets to your business and to your life. And I think that a summit's a great model. So what got me here won't get me there. What got you to this point won't get you to the next point. You need to be willing to stretch yourselves and step out of your comfort zones, because all the great things in life are outside of that comfort zone. And a summit might be a bit of a stretch for a lot of you, but again, it's a proven model. And if you follow people who've done it before you, you have a good chance of success.
Such a valuable statement right there. Thank you again so much for this, Jon. It's been great to pick your mind, to pick your brain. I've absolutely loved it and enjoyed it. And for you summit hosts listening into this, thank you for tuning in with us and spending this time with us today. And we look forward to seeing you on the next episode.
Thanks for listening. Now don't forget to subscribe and leave a 5-star review on the Virtual Summit podcast. Head over to the show notes to check out all the links and resources from this episode, and be sure to grab your free trial of the Virtual Summit software.
Now, I want to end this episode by saying to all the Summit hosts listening right now, I believe in you, and you can do this. Summits are by far one of the most powerful ways to quickly grow your list, launch your platform, make more money, and most importantly, make an impact in the world, even if you're just getting started. So don't get caught up in analysis paralysis, because the world needs to hear your message, and there are people who are waiting for you to help them. So just get started, because imperfect action is always better than no action. Thank you, and see you on the next episode.